Everybody, I'm Ryan, and today we're going to look at mono black midrange in Pioneer and how to sideboard with this really cool deck. We're going to be looking at how to sideboard against the top 10 most popular decks in Pioneer, and hopefully you can use the information that we went over to make the other decisions. My brain's fried. Also, I hate this lighting. The sun's shining in the window in a bad way. You can see me now. By the way, if you'd like to learn more about this deck as a whole, I did a deck tech on it that was posted last week. You should definitely check that out. Today, we're just focusing on the sideboard. So let's talk about like the roles of the cards in the sideboard first, and then we'll talk about how to sideboard against the top 10 decks. So cut down, we're bringing in against mostly aggressive decks, just things that against decks that like you can target a bunch of creatures with. Unlicensed Sources are Graveyard Hate. Cosmic Bronco is really good against decks that are going to go very long, and it's really important that we draw more cards then, so think like Blue-Eye Control and stuff like that. Go Blank is very good as like sort of like a mass Graveyard Hate against things like Is It Phoenix, but also just genuinely good against cards that like, or decks that like Mind Rot would be good against. Shieldred's decent against decks that draw a bunch of cards, just as like an additional threat. Invoke Despair, very good against these enchantment decks, but also similar to Cosmic Bronco, really good against decks that are going to go long, and it's important that we have like big swingy cards that do a lot of things for us all at once. March of Wrath and Sorrow, very good against these aggressive creature decks, or really creature decks as a whole. Also being able to deal with planeswalkers in black is pretty powerful, but outside of like Shieldred's Edict. And then Meat Hut Massacre is our board wipe of choice, but also that enchantment is very good against decks that like Jund Sacrifice and things like that. So let's start with Is It Phoenix. Against Is It Phoenix, we're bringing in Unlicensed Hearse, obviously, just as the Graveyard Hate. We're bringing in Go Blank, just as the Mass Graveyard Hate, and also Mind Rot just is good against the deck. And we're bringing in Shieldred. Now, against the new versions of Is It Phoenix that are playing Artist Talent, Fatal Push gets just very bad, in my humble opinion. And we're going to shave one Invoke Despair. We just need we just need to be able to double spell to be able to provide as many threats as possible. And that's how I sideboard against Is It Phoenix. The second most popular deck is Rakdos Midrange. Against Rakdos Midrange, we're going to be providing as many threats as possible and as many cards that do more than one thing as possible. Invoke Despair is one of the best cards we can be playing against Rakdos Midrange. And we're going to be doing our best to cut as many hand disruption spells as possible, because very often we're just going to end up in a top deck war in this matchup. So we're bringing in Caustic Bronco. I know they have a lot of removal, but we just need as many threats and to outcard our opponent as much as possible. And actually, I'm a fan of Shieldred as well. And we're just going to cut as much of our hand destruction as possible and provide as many threats as possible just to be able to outcard our opponent. We do not want to draw one of these cards when we're top decking in the late game. That is the scariest thing on the planet. So that's how I sideboard against Rakdos. And also, actually, how I sideboard against Mono Black as well, which is the fifth most popular deck. So this is the second and fifth most popular deck. This is how I sideboard against Rakdos and the mirror match against Mono Black. The third most popular deck is Rakdos Prowess. We're going to be bringing in our cut downs, obviously. Bringing in our Shieldred, just nice to draw cards, a decent blocker, etc., etc. March of Wretched Sorrow is also excellent. And then Meat Hut Massacre. And we're going to be taking out cards that kind of take a while to get going and might deal damage to ourselves. I'm not a fan of Reckoner Bankbuster. And then I like shaving a combination of Unholy Annex and Thoughtseize. Just because Unholy Annex kind of takes a while to get rolling. However, if you do have a demon, it's so good. And the Thoughtseize deals damage to us, but also we can kind of stop them from comboing us. So it's a give and take. This is how I sideboard against Rakdos Prowess. Against Selesnya Company, we're bringing in our cut downs because it deals with pretty much every creature in the deck. Bringing in March for similar reasons. Meat Hut Massacre is a great board wipe, but because of things like Aven Interrupter, I'm really worried of like spending too much mana on a spell. So we're going to get rid of Invoke Despair, and then we're going to get rid of Reckoner Bankbuster. It's because I want to have all of these threats and removal spells as much as possible and just attack it that way. So this is how I sideboard against Selesnya Company. We've already talked about Mono Black Midrange when we talked about Rakdos Midrange. We're sideboarding the same. So the sixth most popular deck, because Mono Black Midrange is fifth, is Mardu Greasefang. Against Mardu Greasefang, we are bringing in Unlicensed Hearse, obviously. We're bringing in Go Blank as that Mass Graveyard Hate that we were talking about. March of Wretched Sorrow is decent as instant speed removal for Greasefang if we really need it. And the Mardu version is kind of interesting because it's sort of a mid-range deck as well. So I actually like bringing in Invoke Despair, just to be able to like win on the mid-range side, you know, as easy as possible. That being said, because it's a mid-range deck that can kind of deal with our stuff reasonably well, and also we have to be wary of the combo, I like siding out of our combo and sort of just playing against them at face value. drawing a bunch of cards and whatnot. So I just sideboard out of a bunch of our combo cards. I think that's totally fine. We have plenty of threats, you know, in the last Unstoppable Slasher, in Graveyard Trespasser, in Reckoner Bankbuster, in and of itself, in Mutavault, Hive of the Eye Tyrant, the other side of Unholy Annex. I think it's totally fine. So I sideboard against Marduger's Fang. Blue-White Control is the 7th most popular deck against Blue-White Control. We are bringing in Caustic Bronco just to draw a whole mess of cards. We are bringing in Go Blank because Mind Rot is good against Control. We're bringing in Shieldred because Shieldred is just additional threats are decent against Control, and Invoke Despair. We're going to be bringing out a whole ton of our removal. We're bringing out the Fatal Pushes. We're going to be bringing out the Go for the Throats. It's really hard to get the combo going in general, so I like cutting 2 Bloodletters, and then I'm also going to cut a single Graveyard Trespasser. They don't do a ton of targeted removal. Being able to exile a Memory Deluge is kind of nice. But anyway, this is how I sideboard against Blue Control. The 8th most popular deck is Jund Sacrifice. We need that Graveyard Hate and Unlicensed Hearse. And Go Blank. I like March to be able to deal with the relevant creatures like Yigra and Mayhem Devil and stuff like that. And then Meta Masker, decent against the deck as a whole, but also very good as like just on the enchantment side. I'm going to be bringing out Invoke Despair because they just have so many permanents. Very rarely do we actually get to hit the thing that we want. Going to be bringing out Fatal Push just because it doesn't really do anything. I mean, it can deal with a Goblin and deal with a Blood Tithe Harvester, but in most situations, like, that's it. And this is how I sideboard against Jund Sac. Against Lotus Field, against Hidden Strings, you know, whatever you want to call it. We're bringing in our Go Blank because Mind Rot is good against these combo decks. Shieldred, because this is very good against Pour Over Pages. And that's all we really want, but there's a lot of cards we need to take out. Like the Fatal Pushes need to come out. We really don't want the removal as well. It's good against like Lear or whatever, or if they're playing the strict Proctor version, it's decent against that. I'm not super interested in that though. Like I'd rather attack the hand. So we're going to try to bring in cards that are decent, or at least better than those cards in the main deck. So we bring in the Caustic Broncos, and I actually like the Unlicensed Hearse. So we're going to shave and Invoke Despair so we can bring in the second Unlicensed Hearse. So that's how I sideboard against Hidden Strings, Lotus Field, whatever you want to call it. The 10th most popular deck is Rakdos Transmogrify. So this is another great example of a deck that has a decent mid-range plan, but a scary combo. Thing is, if they're playing Valgavoth or whatever, however you say the name, Invoke Despair is excellent against it because it doesn't have to target it. But we essentially have to sideboard against it like it's a mid-range deck. That being said, not a big fan of Fatal Push. I would very much rather just attack the hand. I like the rest of this all very good against these, you know, these mid-range decks. So I like bringing a Shieldred, just as additional things. Very good against things like Unholy Annex. And we'll just bring in a Go Blank for funsies. So this is sideboard against Rakdos Transmog. There you have had a sideboard against the top 10 most popular decks in Pioneer with Mono Black Midrange. If you like this video and want to see more videos like this, please be sure to like and subscribe. Check me out on social medias. Links are above me and in the description. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.